Welcome, everyone, to the From the Shadows podcast. I'm your host, Shane Grove, and with me is the super producer, Jason.
Greetings, everyone.
Hey, the super producer tag that we give you, man, before we came on, if our guests or our fans could hear the smoke that was coming out of our guests' ears, if you could smell it from Jason trying to explain the technical aspect of recording a podcast, I think you guys might nominate Jason for a Nobel Peace Prize or maybe some kind of science award, because he was really blowing some people's minds.
Just join our Patreon and support our platform. That's all we want you to do.
earning the name of super producer. Oh, but before we bring our guests on, all loyal listeners will know, I mentioned a couple episodes ago that it was supposed to be last week. I had a song coming out on a country music album by Eddie Montgomery, and I not only got the date wrong, I got the name of the album wrong, and so I want to make a correction for those who care and those who are interested in going and buying the album and supporting one of our side projects. You can go to Walmart.com, or you can go to Walmart the day of. The album comes out October 29th, and it's called Ain't No Closing Me Down. And it's Eddie Montgomery's first solo album since his partner, Troy Gentry, died in a helicopter crash. And you can pre-order the album now. You can wait till the day of, save it on your Spotify, Apple, iTunes, wherever you listen to music. Help us out. The song I helped write, it's called Higher. It's a duet with Tanya Tucker. It'd be super cool. I think that's the day actually that single is coming out. So it'd be really cool to hear from all our fans if you got that song and listened to it and maybe streamed it 500 times over the weekend. That'd be awesome. So I apologize for getting everything wrong, but I'm only as good as the material I'm given. So with that, we want to bring in our guests, and this is the first time I think we've had three sisters on. Jason, is it true?
That is absolutely true.
I mean, I'm not asking about anything that you may have done in college, but this is the first time we've had three sisters on the show.
I think it's great.
Yeah. So we have sisters who are authors, and I'm gonna give everybody's name, and then we'll bring in the one sister who I think drew the short straw that has to talk first, because I think they maybe are all shy. But the authors of a really cool book, it's called Holmes County, Ohio, Hair Raisers. And it's not about, the growing hair on bald guys or anything. These are scary stories collected by these sisters in Holmes County. And for those in other parts of the world that don't know Holmes County is Amish country here in Ohio. I don't know if it's the most concentrated population of Amish outside of maybe Pennsylvania, but when you think Amish country, that's it in Ohio.
That is probably correct.
Yeah. So our sisters that are the authors of this book and residents of what we would just refer to as Amish country for us Ohio people, are Shelley Spade, Cheryl Fields, Mary Tipton. And the first, spokesperson of the group that we're going to bring on is Cheryl Fields. Thanks for joining us. Hey, so I understand, because I talked to Shelley. Okay. I saw, something about the book on a Facebook page, and I thought this is, anything Ohio, we really love. Okay. We love to talk to people about stuff that goes on in Ohio. And so I got a hold of Shelley. I mean, I think maybe she thought I was stalking her on Facebook a little bit, but sometimes that's what you got to do to get the story. And so Cheryl, tell our listeners and Jason, because he only knows a little bit about you and your sisters, what your life was growing up in Holmes County, and why you guys decided to write a book full of Bigfoot, UFO, and ghost stories.
All right. So me and my sisters, we grew up in Lakeville, Ohio, which is just a little town in Holmes County. And we always knew that our house was different than a lot of people's. We would hear things, we would hear voices, we would get creepy feelings. We didn't want to be alone in the house. It was just something that we pretty much grew up with. And we've all had like personal accounts of what happened to us. Our friends, of course, we would have them come and spend the night. Sometimes they wouldn't even spend the night because they would be too afraid. So we've had those encounters. I can go into some of them. There was one night that my bedroom was at the top of the steps. And I remember one night I woke up and I never slept with my back to the stairwell. And I woke up and there was a black shadow that was coming up the steps. And it was a huge figure of a man that looked like a lumberjack. And as he turned the corner to come into my room, I seen him lift up his axe. And then I screamed and it disappeared. And my two sisters, they had incidents where they would sleep. There was a formal living room. And the formal living room always had a weird feel to it. And my one sister, who fell down and hurt her knee, she couldn't go up the steps. And so she had to spend the night down there in the living room. And all of a sudden, during the middle of the night, we hear this screaming and somebody running up the steps. And here it was Mary with stitches in her knees, because there was steps that were coming towards her, and the one would step and the next it would drag, and it would just come closer and closer to her. My sister Shelley, she also experienced pretty much the same thing, but her friend was with her and they were laying on sleeping bags on the floor and it went right between them. So that's
like the sound of steps went between them.
Yes, between their sleeping bags. They had their sleeping bags on the floor beside each other. Of course, there was a little gap in between, and the step and slide went right through where they were in between them.
Well,
they stayed there.
I hate to point this out now, but as soon as you said that, the thing that to me that is sliding is the dude dragging his axe on the ground. I don't know if that went through your head as a kid, but as soon as you said that, I thought, oh my God, that dude's dragging his axe.
No, I never thought about that, but that's always a possibility. You just never know.
Well, it's a good thing we weren't friends back then, because that's the first thing I would have said.
You would have really freaked me out on that one.
So did you guys what did your parents ever say or think about this? Or did they ever experience it, or did you ever tell them what was going on? Because if your friends experienced it, I'm sure that they had to have said something outside of the family. So what did your family have to say? Well,
Mom, she pretty much didn't believe us. She would just kind of blow it off like, yeah, mm-hmm. Dad, he was more of a jokester. And so he would go down into the basement in the middle, like in the night, and he would in the register and rattle the door.
They get you thrown in jail for child abuse today.
I know, but he really enjoyed it.
Oh God.
Yeah, he didn't help the situation. He had a lot of fun. Oh yeah, he would do that at lunchtime too. If we were all home alone, he'd come home at lunchtime and he would sneak into the basement and rattle the doors and stuff. And oh yeah.
Is your father still around?
No, both of our parents are gone now.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, if he was still around, I hope you're planning something good for the funeral to get back at the jokester, you know? Because that sounds like he's the kind of guy that would have got somebody say, okay, when I die, I want you to put something in my casket so when they close it, it knocks against the side. Or
oh yeah.
that would have been
good. Yeah, that would have been bad. That would have been so scary.
So have you ever done, since you guys are obviously now, because this is your second book,
correct.
So you guys are into research and finding stuff out, about history. I'm sure that goes hand in hand. Have you ever researched your house that you grew up in and kind of tried to make a connection to what it is that may have been haunting you guys?
Well, yeah, we did. We looked back into the history of the house, and there was a family, the Kriegers. Was it the Kriegers who built it? They built the house, and but we just never were really able to peg who exactly was there. One time we heard that there was a child that might have died in the living room, but that's just speculation. We never really got the facts on it. And who knows? I've heard a lot though that Lakeville in itself is a pretty haunted little town. That there's been spirits that just walk around through there. Back in its time, in its heyday, it was pretty wild.
Lakeville in the middle of peaceful and serene Amish country was wild.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Okay.
Yeah. We had the bootleggers, we had red light districts, and we had during the Prohibition, there was the speakeasies, and we had the lake, and there was hotels and bars, and even gangsters would go down there.
How did the Amish let all that go on and not put a stop to it?
Well, the Amish weren't really around Lakeville back during that time. Yeah, Lakeville's, just in a little corner, and most of the Amish are pretty concentrated in around the Millersburg, Holmesville, Berlin area. Berlin is huge as far as Amish communities. So there's a bunch of English people.
English, yes. I can't. I don't have the Dutch accent down that they use. So, was there anything else that you guys growing up, other than just haunted stuff, that you guys experienced growing up there?
Well, probably of all the sisters, I probably had the most diversified experiences when I was growing up. And me and my friend, my best friend Cindy, we would go across the street from us was the schoolhouse, was Lakeville School. And behind it, of course, was all the playground equipment. And then there was a ball diamond. And there was one beautiful sunny day that me, her, and another girl went up to the ball diamond, and we were riding our bikes around it. And Cindy and the other girl were at home base, and I was riding my bicycle from home, and I had made it to first base. And I stopped my bike because it got really windy. The wind was just whipping around like a tornado and blowing up the sand. And I looked straight ahead of me because I was looking out towards third base, and there's pine trees, the tall pine trees And I was watching them, and the wind had bent them, the tops of them, to the north. And so then I looked up in the sky, up above me. I just raised my head up, and above me was this silver flying saucer. And it was a sleek silver look, and it was hovering above the ball diamond. And I remember I had my bike, and I was looking up, and all of a sudden this orange beam went shooting out towards home base, where Cindy and the other girl were kind of like huddled down. And I dropped my bicycle and I ran down to the playground, and there was a huge oak tree. And I hid behind that oak tree. I just kind of huddled down behind it and hid. And then that's all I can remember. And the next that I knew, I was at home washing dishes with my sisters. And me and Cindy, we never talked about it. Life just went on as usual, and then when we got to be in 9th grade, our English teacher, she wanted us to write biographies about ourselves. And so because me and Cindy grew up together, we decided that we would write a book together. And basically I started the story, she ended it. Exactly how it happened. So that was like my big UFO experience.
That's it? I mean, really? I mean, come on. That's it.
Yeah.
What the heck? I mean, okay. So she essentially, you guys had never talked about it. So she essentially remembered the story the same as you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so you said that the beam of light went towards her and your other friend.
Yes.
So you didn't have the beam of light coming. What did she say about this beam of light coming at her?
She didn't. She don't know. She doesn't know. She just remembers the beam of light. That's all she remembers. And all I know is 2 was better than 1, so I ran.
Oh, jeez. Oh, boy. Some friend you were.
Right. Yeah.
But she had the same then experience as you did, is that from that moment, then the next thing you remember is you're doing something else.
Right. Correct. Yes. And I've never been hypnotized, so, and I'm not sure I want to be.
Oh, wow. That's like some missing time right there for sure. And do you have any idea, you were young. I don't know, how old were you when that happened, do you suppose?
I suppose maybe I was like 7 to 8 years old.
Okay. So you probably wouldn't even remember how much time maybe could have elapsed anyway.
Well, I think it might have been a couple hours, because I think that we had went up after lunch, and if we were doing dishes, it would have been after supper.
Wow. So you'd have come home, eaten dinner, and been doing dishes before you even realized you were back.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Right. So you had to have come home, interacted with your family, ate dinner, and then, because you wouldn't have just walked in after dinner and started washing dishes, right?
No.
So there had to be some sort of you getting back into your family's, routine there that happened without you remembering. That's crazy. So whatever happened to the other girl that was with you guys?
Well, I didn't put her name in the book because I didn't really have her permission to do so. I wanted to talk to her first, but at one point in time, she talked about it, but then after that, we haven't talked to her since about it. She just kind of confirmed it, but she was older than us, so. But she never really said what happened to her, because.
But you do know, and I mean, because we don't need to know her name or anything, but I'm just saying, you have talked to her, and she also then confirmed the same thing that you guys experienced.
Yes. I just don't know. We don't run around in the same circles. So I don't know, like, how many people she ever told, or she just kept it to herself.
Listen, I got to be honest with you. The way you took off like a scaredy cat, I'm not sure I'd run around in the same circle with you anymore either. I mean, I'm just being honest. 8
years old, I don't think I'm going to be able to kick their butt. So
you got to go down with the ship. Come on, Cheryl. What are you doing?
Oh no, this is not the Titanic.
Wow. So is that something then you ever told your parents, or was that just something you shared? I mean, what did your teacher think? You wrote the story and handed it in. What did your teacher think?
I think that she was kind of big-eyed about it, but I don't know if she just kind of maybe just blew it off.
You got an A, didn't you?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, we got an A on the book, but it's like we just.
Listen,
I think some people just don't believe us. Didn't believe us. So.
Oh, okay. So you put this story in the book, right? Is that what I'm hearing? Okay.
Yes.
So how then? Okay. So what? I mean, you guys had enough experiences on your own. You could have probably wrote a decent book. But what made you guys? At what point did you guys say, you know what? Let's put a book together and kind of highlight stories from Holmes County. Was it something because you guys experienced this stuff yourself? So through the years, you maybe shared some stories and then people shared them with you and you started, like, hey, we got a book? Or did you just want to know if people experienced the same things you did as kids and kind of go on a quest to find that out? And it turned into a book. I mean,
What got us into this? Well, I mean, I would say that probably all of our experiences, plus we all get along real good and we enjoy our time together. And we decided that we would like to tell our stories. And we had heard some stories in the past. And when we were going down and doing the interviews about Lakeville, about, we thought maybe you were coming here to talk about our ghosts. So we thought, well, let's write a book about paranormal and see what we get. I mean, we got Panthers Hollow in Millersburg. You got the, Salem Cemetery. Mm-hmm. And there is so much paranormal activity in Holmes County. And we know that there's more. And my sister Mary, she is in with the Holmes County Historical Society, and which is involved with the Victorian House, which is notoriously haunted. So it was just, and it's something that we're all very interested in, and we enjoy talking about. We're not people who, we like to keep an open mind, that we don't say that there's never any possibilities. We keep our minds open.
How couldn't you keep your minds open with the stuff that you have experienced? I mean, so
let's put it this way. NASA has come out saying that there is such thing as UFOs, and I just sit back and chuckle.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And for all those years that people thought like the UFO stuff was crazy, they are validated by we're not crazy. We know what we saw. Now we don't have the answers for what exactly, you saw something. Do you know, were those little green men, so to speak, in that ship shining a light? Was it, a test aircraft from, a secret Air Force base, and the guys didn't know what they were doing, and ended up in the ball field in Lakeville? You know what I'm saying? So you don't know what it was, but you do know there was something there that should not have been there, or that is not common knowledge to everybody.
That's correct. Yep.
So did you then, so let's stay on the UFO stuff, because, I know we got some good stories in each, like, of the categories I want you guys to share to kind of get people excited about going and buying this book, this Holmes County, Ohio Hair Raisers. Cause I gotta admit, I'm kind of jealous that I couldn't have been the picture on the front, but I don't have enough hair to raise. But, so let's stay in the UFO. So give our listeners a couple of maybe the UFO stories that you guys came across that maybe if there's any that validated what you saw even more, like maybe something that took place around that you kind of figured out might have been around the same time that you had your experience, or sounded similar to what, if there is any. I'm just assuming there might be.
There is a bunch. During the time period that I was talking about, which would be in the 70s, in the 70 range, there was so many sightings of UFOs. We're talking people being chased in their vehicles by flying objects with lights blaring down on them. There was UFOs that would come down into the fields. One of them even had some tinsel materials, ropes hanging down from them that were scanning the pasture and just going back and forth. And this wasn't just for seconds. We're talking a half an hour that this was going on, that these people in their house watched in fear. They turned all their lights off because they did not want whatever was in those flying saucers to see them, to be noticed, because they were fearful. We have an Amish person who reported that a UFO landed and hovered in their pasture, and now nothing will grow there in that spot.
And that to me is amazing, that an Amish person came out and would tell that.
Yes.
Because they're very closed, they play, and I can say this and not, they're not listening to the podcast, but at least I don't think any Amish people are listening to the podcast, but if you are, thank you very much. But they're very let's keep it in. It's a close-knit community. I mean, they want to handle justice, for people that do wrong within their community. I can't imagine that they would want to talk about anything paranormal, especially like a UFO, right. Because that is so far out of the realm of what they don't, back then they would have never even thought about a motorized vehicle. You know what I'm saying? In their own,
right. And it's
in their own life. So to be terrorized by something like that would have to really be something that I just can't imagine them sharing that. So I find that amazing that you got that kind of eyewitness testimony from an Amish person.
Yeah, well, the one story that I was telling you about was Sonia Horstman, that my sister Shelley, she's telling me to let you know that that was her story, about the Amish fella who reported having a flying saucer in their pasture.
Well, if there's anybody that could get an Amish person to tell them something, I'm sure it's Sonia, because she has a look. I can hear Jason right now. He's buttoning up his shirt, because when we had Sonia on the show, she called Jason out because he was doing the show with no shirt on.
Oh.
And she was remotely viewing him.
Oh, that's funny.
And he had to admit, yeah, I'm not wearing a shirt. What? What are you doing?
Yeah, I wasn't going to lie about it.
Totally. So then what are you wearing right now?
Tactical pants. I'm still wearing stuff from work. Tactical pants, boots, and a shirt.
Oh, okay. Just wondering.
Listen, I'm not buying it. It took a little too long to describe what he was wearing. I think he had to think about I got to make something up.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
I can't say bikini briefs. So, I mean so you absolutely then, as you research these stories and got stories, had to felt really, really good then that you were not or bad, that you guys were not the only ones that experienced the UFO type activity.
You're absolutely correct. It's actually really kind of strange because we got a lot of UFO stories. Even, we thought that we would have a lot more ghost stories, and we do have a lot more ghost stories, but there was a lot of UFO stories too, more than what I even imagined. It kind of makes you wonder what in the world was going on in this area that would bring alien beings to it. Was it because it was remote and they could do whatever they want? You don't know. Someday we can ask them.
Well, absolutely, because I'm right. There's no military air bases close. There's obviously no nuclear power that I can think of that's close. It's rural. To people all over the world listening, it is as rural an area as you can get. A lot of the roads are 1-lane stone roads still.
Yeah. It's amazing, but maybe they didn't want to be seen, and maybe that's why they were there.
Wow, that is, again, if people want to really, it sounds like this is just the UFO part of this book is kind of mind-blowing to kind of go through the stories and kind of piece them together and see what was going, it almost to me sounds like it needs a whole other investigation to just what was going on in the early 1970s in UFOs in Holmes County, to be honest.
Yes, it does. We thought about doing another book too, but we're recuperating from this one here first. So, yeah.
Okay, so let's move on from UFO. What are some of your favorite ghost stories that you guys came across that while doing research, or that you were told that really that even came close to the axe wielding Amish lumberjack in your house?
Well, we did go out and we did investigate. Well, we didn't really investigate, but we went out to the Hotel Millersburg, and it had a lot of activity going on with it. And probably the one that stuck out to us the most was those ghosts wanted to party down. They were partying ghosts, I tell you, because in the bar area, when they closed it down at night, and the people who were managing it, they had a room up above the bar, and all of a sudden the music came on, the lights came on, and it was like they had a video of it because they had a security camera in there, and you could see the music. It was like the fan was and the lights were strobing to this music, and then you could see I don't know, maybe it was a barmaid who was wiping off a table that was a spirit. But that one was a pretty interesting one. But do you have one, Shelley?
I have one.
Okay, can I hand you over to Mary?
You can
absolutely.
You can hand us over to whoever. Whoever's brave enough to get on the mic.
Hello, this is Mary.
Hey, Mary.
Hey, Mary.
Hey. Well, as Sharon told you, I am a member of the Holmes County Historical Society, and we own the Victorian house there in Millersburg. And for a few years, they were using it as a Halloween scare house. It is a museum that we do tours and everything. My first year there was 2014. They always stick me up on the third floor. And so I dressed up like a vampire. So I was up in the maid's room that night, you know, and we had all kinds of people. I don't know if you've ever seen the Victorian house there in Millersburg. But
Is it on the main drag? Is it on 39?
it is. It's on Worcester Road down below Joel Pomerine Hospital.
Okay. Yeah, I've never seen it. But
Well, it's a 28-room mansion.
oh wow.
It was built
Okay.
back in 1901, and in the 70s, one of the last person that lived there, the daughter of the second family that lived there, she went to the nursing home, and the town was going to demo the whole house, and the Historical Society came in and bought it and restored it to its grandeur that it is now. And I know whenever we would drive past it, we'd always look at the house and think, we know that house is haunted. Or we'd always look up on the third floor to see if someone pulled the curtains back. Well, now it's me up there on the third floor pulling the curtains back, trying to scare people. In 2014, I was up. It was my first night of my first time ever being part of the Victorian house at Halloween. And they had me in the maid's room, and I was dressed like a vampire. You know, you're supposed to jump out and scare people. And there was one other girl, I think she was 15 years old. Her name was Hannah. She was in the ballroom. And we decided to switch rooms because it was really busy. And then there was a lull about 10:30 or so in the evening where there really wasn't anybody. And so I thought, I'll just go talk to Hannah. So she was in the maid's room. So I walked in there and I didn't see her. And I go, Hannah. And then something just grabbed hold of my cloak and yanked it down. And I thought it was her. And I jumped around and I went, Hannah. And no one was there. And I'm like, oh, crap.
Oh, okay.
I went to the back stairs. It goes from the third floor clear to the basement. I went down them stairs as fast as I could. And she's sitting in the front lobby. And I'm like, how long you been down here? She's all about an hour. I'm like, you left me up there alone? She goes, yeah. And I'm like, I ain't going back up there. And Doris goes, I'll go with you. And I'm like, okay. So she went back up there with me and stayed up there. That was my first incident at Victorian House. So, and I've had many things happen at the Victorian.
Well, so you guys have, like you said, like a haunted house there, or scare house, right?
Oh, they did. Not anymore. They went to doing paranormal investigations, either public or private.
Well, I just wondered, did anybody else that went through the house have a similar experience?
Oh, yeah. We've had quite a few people that have had a lot of experiences. That one Halloween of 2019, we had the door in the maid's room that's connected to the drawing room that was for the maid. It's now locked. We use it as a library. That doorknob rattled all night long. And on the last tour, 2 police officers from Millersburg were with us. And the one female officer, she thought we were just kidding when we said that door had been rattling all night. It rattled so hard. It sounded like somebody ran at the door and just slammed into it. She was so scared, her hand went right to her gun. That's how scared she was.
And none of you guys bothered to open the door to see what was on the other side?
It was locked. That room was all locked up.
Like you couldn't even open it if you wanted to?
No, you had to have a special key from the curator, and she was not there that night. And that's a room that we don't allow the public in because we use it as like a archive room, and we have a lot of different.
Unless I hate to break it to you, unless the curator has somebody locked inside there that they don't like, and
I know Candy, and I don't think she. Oh, it's the man with the axe. Cheryl says.
It's the man with the axe.
It's the man with the axe. I mean, I've had quite a few encounters there. A lot of the members have. I mean, the one telephone would ring. It was an antique phone that wasn't even hooked up, would ring by itself. And
oh God,
nobody was brave
Oh my
enough to
goodness.
answer it, I mean, just all kinds of weird things, weird smells, and an old man in the basement sometime will tell people to get out, and it's like, whatever, it's like he can stay down in the basement. I don't want to talk to him. So.
Right, I
don't
understand.
know, when I'm there alone, I won't go to the basement. I won't check it out. I just stand there in the foyer and I scream as loud as I can. Is anybody in here? And if nobody answers back, I lock the place up and they're in for the night. So, and I leave.
Wow, I'll tell you what, you guys got some guts. You guys got some.
I had something else happen to me really weird, and it's not about ghosts. I live over in Shreve near the Killbuck Marsh, or what they call the Shreve Swamps. Yeah. And I live right there on the county line between Wayne County and Holmes County. And my husband passed away in 2016. And since then, me and my dogs have developed really weird sleeping patterns. They always want to go outside at 3 in the morning to do their business. And I'm like, ugh, really? Now, behind my house is nothing but a field and a woods. There is a house that sits off to the side, and then there's a hill and they do the fireworks up there. So it's basically woods, and I have a lot of deer that run through there, and my dogs, they're little ankle biters, and they will chase horses, they will chase deer, rabbits, whatever. So I go out there and it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, oh, good God. This was in the spring of 2019. And they take off out. You got to go down through my kitchen into the garage and then out the back door to the patio. And then it's yard and then field and woods. These 2 dogs come screaming back in before I could even get my foot out onto the patio. And they're whining. And these dogs are so stupid, they'll chase anything and bark at anything. They don't care. Okay, they'll even chase buggies and horses down the road. And I'm like, well, what's wrong with them? They're all smashed up against the door whining to get in the house. So I just open the door and they fly into the house. And I shut the door and I shut the lights off in the garage. And I go out on the patio and there's these red eyeballs standing in the middle of the field at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I turn the lights back on thinking maybe it's deer and it's eye shine. No, there isn't deer that tall, okay? And I'm like, so I shut the lights back off. Well, I get a Scooby-Doo moment, right? I start walking out there like, what is that, And then I get about almost off the patio, and I'm like, oh, that's not a deer. And I start backing up into the garage, and I slam that door, and I get in the house, and I huddled on the couch with the dogs all night.
So,
I still don't know what it was.
But it sounds like you may have like an idea of what you think.
I think it was either Bigfoot or Dogman.
Okay. So do you so I'm assuming then in the process of accumulating stories for the book that you guys came across some good Bigfoot sightings and even Dogman sightings.
Definitely Bigfoot. A lot of people don't know what Dogman is, but that's starting to come out into the media and stuff as another cryptid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They think Dogman, werewolf, there is a little bit of a difference there, but those are starting to come forward as the most seen cryptid, like in Ohio. Of course, you have the Beast of Bray Road in Wisconsin. Michigan has a Dogman. But I do believe, yes, there are Bigfoot here.
So what, because now I don't need to say this, but I mean, our fans love Bigfoot. everybody loves Bigfoot. He's like the rocks. He's like the rock star.
He is a rock star.
Rock star of all cryptids.
He is.
Of all cryptids. So what are some of the best sightings that you guys have heard about? Then
Well, I will turn you over to Shelley, who has one of the best stories.
I mean, Shelley's going to get on. I mean, she was
Finally.
She was so scared. I mean, okay. All right.
Yes. Okay. So when we were down at the Holmes County Nursing Home, we went down there to talk to a guy from our town, and he had some UFO stories. But while we were there, we were walking around, and one of the nurses there, she, wondered what we were doing, and we said we were there for a book. And she says, "Well, I saw Bigfoot." So, and she didn't want her name in it. She didn't even give us her name. So we called her Candy. So back in the 60s, she lived with her family out in the country and on a farm. And her and her older sister got sent down to the barn to feed the cats. So they go down to the barn, and it was in the back. And so she was standing by the door, and her sister went to feed the cats. And all of a sudden, there was a Bigfoot in the barn. But it was about 6 foot tall, so it was probably a juvenile, walking on two legs. It didn't see her, but she could see it. And then the beast, she had said it wanted out of the barn. It walked over. They had rabbit coops in there, and it ran its fingers across the rabbit cages, about scared the rabbits half to death. And finally, it broke down the back door to get out. Well, her and her sister, ran up to the house, and they told their mom. When their dad got home, he went out and he looked at the barn, and he's like, "Don't tell anybody about it." So then a couple years went by, and their dad replaced the barn with a new barn, 2 stories, horse stalls, with a tack room, with the saddle racks and everything. And then about 5 to 6 years after her first encounter, her and her cousin were going to sleep in the top of the barn. So they're there, and all of a sudden they hear something in the bottom just making all kinds of ruckus and banging and stuff. And so they ran up to the house. They thought it might be her sister, but it wasn't her sister. So the next day then, their dad went down to the barn, and he went down, and in the tack room, these big stuff that had been bolted into the walls to hold the saddles had been ripped out, and stuff was all torn up, feed bags and stuff. So that was her second encounter. And then a few years later, it was evening, and she was walking down to feed the dogs. And as she's walking down, the dogs aren't excited. They're just kind of staring into the woods. And she looks up, and there's Bigfoot watching her. And she said she just slowly backed up and just kept throwing the dog food over her shoulder as she backed up to the house. So she thinks that they're migratory, and they come around and check on her every 5 to 6 years.
Really?
Yeah, so she's had 3 experiences, all at the same farm.
Oh, and was it the same? So the first one she thought might have been a juvenile. Did it grow? Did she say it was like the last one? Because she obviously, it didn't sound like she really saw the second time.
The second one they didn't see. They just, kind of put 2 and 2 together. Like, what else can rip that stuff off the wall?
Nothing but Amish Jack with his axe. But, he was too busy scaring you. But so did she say the one that she saw the last time was full grown and maybe the same one? I don't know. How would you know?
She didn't say. She did not say.
So she just matter of factly is like, yeah, I've had 3 experiences.
Yeah.
Did she say anything else? Like why she thought it kept coming around or anything like that? Or just tell you the story?
She just told us the story. Yeah.
Golly.
There's another one too. There was a part of it is a sighting. Now, the Victorian House, the director of that is Mark Bowley, and he gave us several different types of stories. And he said he was down at Panther Hollow one night by himself, which is one of those little 1-lane dirt roads in Holmes County.
Now, why do they call this place Panther Hollow?
Because at one time, the story goes that a circus train wrecked, some panthers got loose and killed some people. and that you can still hear them or see their ghosts today.
Really? Okay. All right. And are there still panthers in Holmes County, or did they catch those?
My sister says there's been sightings of panthers.
All right. Just one more thing to scary about Holmes County.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Mark decided to drive down there by himself in the dark, and as he was going through there, all of a sudden he saw something big and hairy by the road, and it turned to look at him, had red glowing eyes, and it went across in front of him so fast he really didn't get a good look at it. They said it was really big and it really scared him. And then a few years ago, he was down at McDonald's in Millersburg, and he was sitting there eating, and there was a guy just at another table, sitting there working on a laptop and stuff, and they struck up a conversation, and this guy told him, he was a professional Bigfoot hunter. He said, he said to Mark, he goes, would you like to see some footage of Bigfoot that we took just south of here down by Killbuck Creek? And of course, Mark's like, yeah, I'll go out to the van with you,
Oh, that you don't, come on. He's not falling for that to get in the guy's van. That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother podcast. We can.
Yeah. So Mark said he went down, went out and looked at in the van, and said it was just like a television studio in there. And the guy had some video footage of a Bigfoot mama and her baby. And he also had Bigfoot scat pictures, footprints. Supposedly then the Ohio Department of Natural Resources got wind of this guy and said, oh, hey, come on down and bring us your stuff. We'd like to see it. Well, then, of course, he took it down, and that was the last he ever saw of it. And then about a year later, the guy in the Squatchmobile mysteriously died after making claims, that the Bigfoots were all over the place near Killbuck.
Okay, this sounds like a conspiracy more than...
This was Mark's story.
Yes, it does. I love it.
Off the air, you might have to tell us who this person was. If you've got a name, I'd like to investigate that claim.
We would have to ask Mark. I'm not even sure Mark knew his name.
I would seriously love to hear more about that story.
Yeah, we'll ask Mark about it. Supposedly, and this was something Sonia told us, that at one time, some mushroom hunters down around Killbuck found in the 70s, found a big hairy body out in the woods. And so they went back, and for some reason, the military was called in. They came in with trucks and everything and hauled the body out. Nobody ever, they never said anything about it. Finally, they just said, oh, it was a bear. But why does a rare bear, and why does the military have to pull a bear body out? But we couldn't find anybody to back that story up, though. I mean, we, in the 70s, we would have been going to school with kids from that area. And we asked, some of them from that area, and they didn't know anything about it. But so that's something, too, we'd like to further look up.
Yeah. I mean, stories like that are from the 70s, and those are the stories that are like the urban legends, because it's just word of mouth. Nobody has anything on a cell phone. Nobody has anything on a camcorder. It's like, Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Nobody tweeted about it or anything like that. And the sad thing is like, we're getting to the point, like if something did happen in the 70s, to find the people that would have been the adults at the time, they're dying off to kind of get, so it's all secondhand, even third hand storytelling at that point. But who knows? Maybe the fact that you guys just brought that up, and maybe
somebody will hear it.
Maybe somebody will be listening and say, I remember that story. And so I mean, I think Jason will agree. This is, I didn't really know what we were getting into with the story. Like, come on, it's Amish country. How?
Oh, I know, this is great.
This is crazy stuff in a place where you would, because I got to be honest, Amish country can go one of two ways. You can think, oh, it's a sweet, quaint, really cool. Like they just live simple life, and we get great pies and crafts. Or there's a whole lot of crazy, scary stuff that they got hidden away in those hills, in the woods, and it might be the scariest place in the world. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I heard. Yeah.
It's it really could go. It really could be a horror movie for real. Like,
if you believe those urban legends, yes. Let's.
Well, let me tell you, I still go out at 3:00 in the morning with my dogs, but I will carry a knife and I will carry a 38 in my back pocket.
That's wise. I have nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Better safe than sorry.
Well, I would say this.
That's all right.
I would say this: don't go outside with your sister Cheryl, because she's going to be inside the house with the door and lock you out, probably, because you heard her say two's better than one.
That's all right. I keep an axe on the back patio to see her axe me.
Wow, you ladies don't mess around. Okay. You don't mess around. But so before we close here and tell everybody how they can buy this book and reach out to you guys, is there anything that, other than the couple stories that you might want to get some more information on, is there anything that you guys kind of heard that you didn't put in the book that maybe is outside of these categories or these boxes that was way out there, but you would really like to do some more research on it and see if it,
yes.
Can you?
The one thing that we did hear, but we could not find anybody to talk, but we would love to find out, is that we were told that down on the Holmes County Trail, which is a very long trail that goes through Holmesville, Millersburg, Fredericksburg, that it's just, no cars can be on it, that there's actually like a family of Bigfoots that live down there, and that people have seen them, but nobody has talked to us about that. So that's kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I would love to find out more about the them finding the Bigfoot body down in the Killbuck area, to find out if that's true.
Now, the place that you're describing where there's a supposed Bigfoot family, that sounds like a place where you don't go unless you're supposed to be there, right? If you can't,
you can
like
go.
you said,
not really. I mean, you can ride your bikes. It's like a bike trail. The Amish do have their buggies that go up and down it, and you can walk down it. But I mean, it's like out in the country, in the wooded areas, in the remote areas.
So it's a place you shouldn't be riding your bike or walking. That's what you're saying.
Well, I mean, you want to be careful.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, all the stuff that's going on in Holmes County, walking out in the middle of nowhere or riding my bike does not sound like something I'd want to do even for a story. I mean, oh boy. I mean,
it's not the people you have to worry about. It's the other things out there that you don't know.
Sorry, You'll find me eating ice cream at Walnut Creek Cheese. Okay, I'm just going to tell you that. That's where I'll be.
Well, I hope you pick up some trail bologna too on your way.
Oh, absolutely!
Of course,
it's a must.
Of course. Wow. So let everybody know what's the best way to buy the book. Like if you guys want them to buy it through a website or Amazon, and then how people can get a hold of you guys and tell you some stories from Amish country, from Holmes County. Or, I mean, even if it's just, look, I'm just going to throw it out there. Tell them stories from anywhere in Amish country. I want to hear them.
Absolutely.
Okay. So our book is for sale on Amazon. We published it through Kindle Direct Publishing. So it is available on Amazon. Also, this weekend is the Holmes County Antique Festival. We will have a booth set up and have it for sale there so they can get it autographed and save shipping costs. And if you have stories, we would love to hear them. We have a website, or not a website, we have our email, which is 3 sisterspublications@gmail.com. So if they leave us a message there, or even if they come and see us at the Antique Festival and let us know, and we have a Facebook page, 3 Sisters Publications.
Okay, cool. I encourage everybody that is in the area, go visit you guys this weekend, because this episode will come out in time for people to make some last minute plans to go see you guys. Here's some of the story. I mean, look, if I was listening to this, I'd be going down there to get, first some good Amish baked goods, and then shake the hand of the ladies who faced the Amish lumberjack and live to tell about it. Look, we joke around about that, but we only joke because that has to be terrifying as a kid. I can't even. Oh yeah. I can't even imagine what that's like. So, and Mary, being somebody who has seen the red glowing eyes themselves, I totally get your trepidation about walking any further out into the field. You know what I'm saying?
But I do it every night almost. I do it every night. I even have, there's been pounding on my house in the middle of the night, but.
Oh, so you were just going to leave that out? That there was pounding?
I was, but there's been some thumpings on the side of the house. I always tell my sisters, and my dogs will go crazy, and yeah, it's just been weird.
Jason, I have a feeling that in a future episode that Mary's going to have a much better Bigfoot encounter story that she's going to share with us.
Nice.
Yeah, hopefully. And if I get him. I got a reward coming,
Well, be careful, because you may not like the ultimate reward if you know what I mean. If you go to tangle with a creature like that.
He's got to catch me first. I'm one of those, when I'm scared, I run, and if there was zombies chasing me, I'd probably trip you to get ahead of you.
Wow. Okay. So anybody that goes and visits these ladies, check your wallet before you leave, okay? Because I think they're out for blood. But wow. But
I'm just kidding.
I'm not. Cheryl, Mary, and Shelley, hey, thank you so much for coming on and sharing some of these stories. I mean, Jason and I being from Ohio, we love to hear these stories because we're both very familiar with the places that you're talking about.
Yes, very familiar. Yes.
People from out of the area, hopefully they will, do some research and kind of see what we're talking about, how quaint and nice and unassuming this area is to have all this crazy stuff going on. But I urge everybody go get the book, Holmes County Hair Raisers, and read the rest of the stuff that's in there, because if it's half as good as the stories you guys shared with us, it's going to be a fantastic read. So, thanks again, ladies. And if
Thank you. It was
you guys, hey, we're all ears here. If you get some really good stories, we want to hear them.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So, all right. Thanks again, ladies, for joining us, and we'll be in touch.
Yes.
All right. You take care.
Yeah, see ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out. Ha 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 ha.